It's the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast. It's been a little bit since Les Levine's been on the show, but here he is. How's it going, sir?
What'd you do, lose my number or something?
Oh, man, no. I think maybe you lost mine.
I've been sitting and waiting. I've been waiting for next year's phone call.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's uncanny. You know, a Brown season begins, and these team just happen to get distracted, and they fall into a pit of negativity on and off the field. At this point, does anything surprise you with this team?
No, but, you know, we use the term unbelievable, but I don't know that we should use that anymore because it's believable, and it's believable every year. Uncanny, I guess, is a good word for it, but you don't see it elsewhere, I don't think. I mean, people ask me how I've been able to do sports talk for so long, losing teams, and I say I don't know any other way of doing it. I'd like to find that out, but you know, I don't think there's. To me, I've never done it any way different.
Yeah, it's funny. The Browns extended a backup quarterback for 2 years today. And with all the other things that are going on with a suspended GM and TMZ reporting teammates not agreeing with the quarterback decisions, and then finally parting ways with an offensive line coach who ended up not being prosecuted for a domestic violence case, and here the Browns are, you know, business as usual.
How do you sign a backup quarterback for 2 years and supposedly your GM is not allowed anywhere near the building or a phone call? I mean, seriously, how does that happen? Why wouldn't that wait until Farmer got back so at least there's no look of, I mean, what it means is either somebody's doing something behind his back or he's still involved in decisions. And either way, that's wrong.
Well, it certainly makes you wonder if the Browns are staying true to their suspended GM and really giving him his time out, and he's not having any communications with the team.
They can't be that stupid, can they?
I mean,
hold on a second. Let me take that back. They could be that stupid, couldn't they?
And through it all, I still like Mike Pettine, and maybe that's a personality flaw for me. Maybe I'm just that stupid.
No, I do too. In fact, I think he's the only one who has a clue out there, and what that usually means is people will make decisions maybe based on that they don't want somebody outshining them. This whole thing with Manziel, and I think that every organization, every front office with the Browns, and we have a lot to choose from and a lot to compare to. But there's a significant moment in each one. And I mentioned something on my TV show last night that when you go back, starting with Mangini, and you could probably go further back, Chris Palmer for sure. I'm not sure about Butch Davis, but to take Mangini and Cornell and Chudzinski and Shermer and now Pettine, there's a moment, whether it's in a game or after a game or whenever, when they all have that punched in the gut look on their, and it's almost like I thought I was the guy who could turn this thing around, but I guess force is bigger than I that won't allow me to do that. Do you get that feeling, Chris?
Yeah, I do. And I remember the moment with Holmgren specifically because, you know, he gives us one of the greatest sound bites in Cleveland Browns history when he starts yelling about playoff tickets.
Well, yeah, then you become irrational when you do stuff like that. But I think I saw that look on Pettine's face after the game.
Oh, so you think we've reached that moment where Mike Pettine is like,
well,
I don't know what to do.
Well, who's the veteran guy he's got on his staff that he can lean
on? Chris Tabor.
I think we know that answer. I mean, who? Joker Phillips?
It's Chris Tabor, the special teams coordinator.
No, yeah, you're right, but I mean that's based on what?
No, that's a punchline.
I don't know. I just think listen, people say, why would coaches come here, or GMs, or players even? And I think, they're desperate, but I'd like to think that's not the case. But I think everyone has the ego that they're the ones who can look at it. There's enough resources, there's enough good things that they're the one who can make it happen. And what they don't realize is it's pretty much a coach's graveyard. And that's an even better reason why they come and take the job, because they know it's a coach's graveyard. But if they're the ones who could turn it around, they could just drive 60 miles down to Canton to the Hall of Fame. I mean, didn't you think Holmgren thought that this was his ticket to the Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah.
Whether as a coach or a de facto owner or whatever he was under Randy Lerner.
The way he talked when he came in and the way he started hiring people, I thought for sure that he was going to be that guy. And I thought he was going to be that guy up until the point that he hired Pat Shurmur. And now that Holmgren is gone and Pat Shurmur was his signature hire, everybody got a chance to talk about the fact that he didn't show up in the office till 11 and everything else. But all that would have been fine if he'd hired the right coach. Yeah,
if Shurmur was the right coach, you'd say, You wouldn't even know that he showed up at 11, just in time to see who he was going to lunch with.
All right, last question for you, because I'm sure you've gotten this.
Last question?
No, about the Browns.
Oh, okay.
About the Browns. I'm sure you've gotten this a ton over the years, and waiting for next year has been around long enough now that we start to get it, where Browns fans look at all the headlines and all the different things that we talk about, and they say, hey, you guys are so negative. And I just wonder what your take is on that. Obviously it's not our fault, but do you think that it's just us talking about the truth, or do you think we do kind of revel in the negative?
No. Listen, we're all Browns fans. If in your case, whether it's hits on the site, or in my case of whether it's a bigger audience and ratings and all. It's all better when they win. There's nothing good about a 2-14 season. There's nothing good about talking about the draft in October. So nobody really wants that. The newspaper people don't want that. They when Browns win, when they even with the plain dealer, which does not deliver on Monday, they still have a pretty good sale at the drugstore or gas station or whatever. When the Browns win. I know this for a fact that restaurants do better on Mondays during football season when the Browns win. That sounds kind of strange, but it is back. There is information that backs that up. I don't know of anybody in the local media that wants this organization to fail. They may not like the people involved, but even the uniforms, now they're coming under criticism because they're so, the team's playing so poorly. But I didn't hear what you said. At the beginning of the season, did you have a prediction for how many wins the Browns would have?
The last few years, until such time as they find a quarterback, I just try and hold them to the standard of 8 wins. They should be able to. They should predictably be able to build a team that should be able to win half their games. Period.
That they should, because that's the way the NFL is built. And you think every once in a while you'd fall into you get a ball fall your way or whatever. But most people this year were in the media. I think we're talking 5 to 6. Well, let me ask you this: what does a 5 to 6 win team look like? It looks exactly like what the Cleveland Browns are. You can't say that you thought. I mean, you can be disappointed in their performance, but if you really thought they were a 6-win team, this is what a 6-win team looks like, and you can't start bemoaning the fact that, well, they didn't do this on this play and they didn't do that. 6-10 is 6-10, and that's what a 6-10 team looks like.
Yeah, I'm still.
And things happen to 6-10 teams. Your best playmaker muffs a punt. You get the ball gets down to the goal line by half an inch instead of having your last drive start at the 20. That's what a 6-10 team. That's what happens to a 6-10 team. The call doesn't go your way.
Yeah, well, and you see the power of a single superstar player, whether you're talking about Gronkowski or Julio Jones or even Adrian Peterson. The Browns don't have a single one of those guys.
No, there's nobody that San Diego's coaches today are not saying who's going to beat us. But let me throw this in. If we're going to cut off talking about the Browns here, if you wonder, you got Josh McCown's going to start again unless something happens, some strange thing happens in the next 3 days. So McCown's going to start, and Mike Pettine. There's only one reason why McCown's going to start, and that is that the coaching staff, headed by Pettine, does not believe that Johnny Manziel is ready. They also don't believe he should have been drafted a year ago, but that's a totally different story for another year. The easy way out for Mike Pettine right now is to start Johnny Manziel. But if he knows in his heart of hearts that if you started Manziel from day one, you'd be a 2-14 team, then he can't do that because he's going to be judged on wins, and we know what that means with an owner who has a quick finger. So, they had this meeting in January or February between Haslam and Pettine and Farmer and Alex Shiner, and they supposedly came to an agreement on whatever they came to an agreement on. Well, to me, it's so clear that there's not an agreement. It's so clear that Farmer, Haslam, and Shiner want Manziel to be there for ticket sales, the jersey sales, although that goes to the league, but for just getting more people into their seats, or instead of, even if all the tickets are sold, instead of having 42,000 actually in their seats, they want 65,000. So they have an agenda, but Pettine's agenda isn't the same agenda. And so you have a case where I believe that Pettine has told Haslam that Johnny Manziel is not ready, and they don't know if he'll ever be ready. Because what other reason is there that A, they brought in McCown, and B, they're going to start him into Game 4? Can you think of a reason other than they think that Manziel will get totally embarrassed and maybe hurt out there? What else could it be?
Yeah, no, they just don't think I think they had the meeting. I think they all came to the agreement, and that's why they went out and got Josh McCown. And I think the only one who's sticking by that agreement is Mike Pettine. I
totally agree. Totally agree. So, whatever their reason to bring McCown in has not changed. He drove them down in the Jets game, drives them down with a tremendous drive, gets hurt at the end of the drive, and then they put in Manziel, and let's be honest, whether you're a Manziel fan or not, let's be honest, he had two very nice plays. The game dictated that he didn't have to really do anything, and they only allowed him to throw 15 passes. What does that tell you? That tells you they don't think that he can win you a game. Can he make a spectacular play? Yeah, but if he starts and plays every game, my guess is he won't have the opportunity to make spectacular plays to win games. He might make spectacular plays when they're down by 14.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right.
He can't hold on to the football.
Yeah, he can't hold on to the football, and the Cleveland Browns can't run the ball. I think a lot of people are starting to question, when John DeFilippo showed up and he said he was going to keep all the things that were working. I'm pretty sure that zone blocking scheme is just gone, and the Browns are not run blocking anywhere near as well as they did under the zone blocking scheme.
Well, I don't know X's and O's, so if you tell me that, I believe you. But is it fair to say that maybe when you talk about the best part of this team was the offensive line and the defensive backfield? Is that a fair statement?
Yep.
Okay. Is it fair to say that maybe Joe Thomas and Alex Mack might not be as good as everybody thinks they are? Is it fair to say that maybe, nobody throws at Revis, nobody throws at, some Richard Sherman, but everybody throws at Joe Hayden. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Does
it look like anybody's saying let's not throw the ball toward Joe Hayden?
No, even
Amari
including
Cooper comes out first pass of the game. They're throwing it Amari Cooper on, who's supposedly covered by Joe Hayden. Listen, everybody loves these guys. Everybody loves Alex Mack and Joe Thomas and Joe Hayden. But you know what? That doesn't mean they can still play the game. And I couldn't grade a left tackle from a cornerback, but We were told we got one of the best lines in football. Well, then you ought to be able to run the ball.
Yep. You know what the most interesting thing we talked about with the Browns? I never knew that restaurants did better on Mondays after a Browns win.
I made that up.
Oh, okay.
No, there are. If you ask the restaurant people, they will tell you that people they're just happier in this town.
Yeah.
We don't have that many opportunities. Don't ask me to name one restaurant, by the way.
No, it's fine. I won't. So moving along to the Indians, Chris Antonetti might get elevated to the president of the Indians. What do you make of this? Isn't this just kind of a carbon copy of the exact same thing that happened with Mark Shapiro when they elevated Antonetti to GM? And I thought they said they weren't going to do this.
Well, I think it's two different positions if that in fact happens. I think the Mark Shapiro did have the training in all aspects of the game to then go out and be able to put up the corner bar and the neighborhood and all that other stuff. I'm not sure Chris Antonetti has that background nor that interest. To me, the moving Shapiro to where they moved him was, and then the result of him then being pursued by Toronto for a non-baseball. He's not making baseball decisions, I don't believe. And I think that's the way his career track was headed. I don't know about Antonetti. It seems to me he's too young to give up being a GM or being the baseball guy. So I would think that if he gets in title, if he gets moved up, while I think Shapiro gave up much of the reins of baseball, although I'm sure Antonetti consulted him on stuff, I don't see Mike Chernoff being able to just be handed the reins on that one at this point. And Mike is a quality, good guy. Now, whether he could look at a baseball player, and I've said this about Antonetti and guys of that ilk, you can show me the computerized stuff all day, but show me the player and tell me if you want him up with the game on the line. I don't care what his numbers say. The numbers don't tell you if it's a line drive that was caught or a blooper hit off the end of the bat that wasn't.
Well, and there's certainly something to that confidence factor into a player. Let's just say that there's something about Victor Martinez that's beyond the numbers. There's something, I think, about Francisco Lindor that's beyond the numbers. There's something beyond the numbers about Carlos Santana in a negative way. I think he's a little bit less than what his potential was. And I think you're right. I think there are some things that you do capture not by staring at box scores.
Well, I'll tell you what. The Carlos Santana thing to me is interesting because I might be one of the only guys in town who thinks that he, with this team in this market, in this salary, in this contract situation, that I think he's a guy I'd like to keep. I don't know the argument that he walks too much. It's not his fault if a pitcher throws 4 balls to him. It's not his fault if he works the count. Would I like to see him produce with the game on more games on the line, or produce better with games on the line? Absolutely, but I think that if you're an opponent, just like you talked about the Browns opponents preparing for the Browns, I think certainly Santana not in the Miguel Cabrera way, but on this team, Santana might be a guy that most other managers don't want to face.
Well, and maybe those walk numbers are contributing to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's wrong with walks. While I just told you the new Ivy League way of looking at baseball, I don't know what's wrong with walks. Now you got a guy on second in a tie game. Do you want the guy walking? No, but they're also pitching carefully to him so that he doesn't get the game-winning hit. So how many guys on the Indians would you say they pitch carefully to besides Michael Brantley? Who's scared right now? The composition of this lineup, and even when they had Bourne and Swisher, who did the manager and the bench coach talk about and say we can't let this guy beat you? And I think, although the bar is low, I think Santana is one of those guys.
Well, it certainly isn't like Jason Kipnis, and he's a fine baseball player, but he's not.
Yeah, but no manager is saying don't let him beat you.
No, you're right. And maybe even Michael Brantley. He's a great hitter, but he probably hasn't elevated himself to that terrified of him status.
Yeah, hey, Minnesota has Dozier, their second baseman. Okay, nobody's sitting there saying don't let him beat you, but that guy, I don't know the exact number. I think he's got 29 home runs. But people are still talking about don't let Joe Mauer beat you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I think we're slow to update our definitions on these players too. It's really hard to keep up.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And by the way, I don't know when this is running, but do you think the lowest crowd in the history of baseball will be at the 4:00 game today?
Yes. I mean, I don't know how you could plan on any lower. And it's going to be embarrassing. There'll be pictures on Deadspin. But I don't know. Do you find it particularly embarrassing? No. I mean, anybody who knows, I guess if you're sitting in Seattle and you look at a picture of what this game will be looking like, you'd say that. And somebody's going to say, well, mathematically, the Indians are still in it, but they're not. But, what else would you expect? We got our playoff invoice today. Did you really? Yeah. Well, congratulations. Yes, we'll be paying for our. I'll give them credit. Usually they send them out much earlier. So congratulations to. It's not like they can sit on your money because I'm pretty sure you're not going to send it in. Yeah, it's so funny. The Indians tickets are the one thing that I really don't particularly value. I mean, I value them, but I don't love them like I love other sporting event tickets, but I still somehow haven't been able to give them up. Well, all right. Let me throw this at you, because because there's such negativity about the Dolans, or when we talk about the Dolans, we mean all Dolan at this point, and that negativity comes from a decade ago, let's say. But the Indians. I don't know what their final record is going to be, but it's going to hover around the 500 mark. It has been for the last that'll make it for the last 3 years. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. They came close last year. Why is there such negativity when Dan Gilbert is the recipient of the of LeBron James? Didn't do much in those 4 years in between, but nobody said he's a bad owner. The Indians have had, or the Browns have had Lerner and now Haslam, and you know what their record has been. I don't hear that many people ripping ownership, I don't think, and yet the Indians who are doing it, and I don't mean to apologize for them because there's some mistakes I think they've made, but I think they're doing the best that they can do once they've decided that they can't go buy big-time free agents, and yet 500 in football. You said 8-8 would be terrific. Well, that's basically what the Indians are. The Cavaliers during the non-LeBron James era, what did they do? They're lucky to win 25 games in those years. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we all screamed about those teams as well. My biggest issue with the Indians is not. Yeah, but you didn't blame Dan Gilbert. When Luke Herringody and Samardo Samuels were scoring major minutes, it wasn't. People weren't, exactly. I got to tell you something. I would not have come up with those names. And this is my problem with the Tribe. It's not. I know what you're saying, and I've had these conversations. I'm not happy with that, by the way. And I've had these conversations with other people, but why does it take me, and this is a question I'm asking myself, why does it take me so much effort to convince myself that I don't hate this team or that I should like this team? Well, no, you shouldn't like. I'm not happy with what I said, by the way, that right. They're hovering around the 500 mark. So you shouldn't be happy, but I think that the average people out there, and I'm in a different generation from you, and you're the people they've got. Your generation is who baseball has to kind of appeal to. But I think because of
the technology, because of instant gratification, 24/7 coverage, and everything. You know, if you're a good baseball team, and then on a given week when you have let's say you play every day and you have 7 games, and you win 4 and you lose 3, and you did that every week, you're going to win your division. If you went 4-3 for 26 weeks, you do. I can't do the math, but I know that you'll be out. That'll be around the 90s. That's winning 4 and losing 3. Well, the football mentality is, yeah, but you lost 3. Well, that's what baseball is. You know, it's an old cliche that you throw your team out there no matter how good or how bad it is, and just by showing up, you're going to win 60 games, and by showing up, you're going to lose 60, and it's what you do in the other 6, whatever it is, however many games that's left, 40-some games. That's the difference. So it's not, you know, football and basketball, you got to be the first or second seed to win. Baseball, you just have to make the playoffs. And you make the playoffs if you win 4 out of 7 games in any given week.
By the way, I did the math for you. It's 93 games. How'd you do? 93 games.
If you do what? Win 4 and 3, lose 3?
Yep.
Okay, 93 games. Would you take that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, most fans who are not connoisseurs of I've never used that word before, I'm sorry, who are not real fans of baseball, if it's a football mentality, you'll look at the 3 losses. You won't look at the 4 wins. Give me 4 wins a week. Thank you very much. I'll see you with 93 wins, and I probably have the home field advantage.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem that we get into when people compare the fact that people keep lining up for Browns games, but they don't go to Indians games, and it's not even it doesn't make any sense to even make that argument, because the Browns and the NFL have created a scarcity. You know, every week is an event, and you can't play 5 times a week and have events. You know, the Indians do very well in their event type games, the opening day, 4th of July.
So let me ask you this: if the NFL didn't force you to buy exhibition tickets, and they asked you to buy, let's say only 15,000 season tickets for whatever reason, only 15,000 season seats were sold, and if you wanted to go to the games, you just go up to the gate or you go to the internet or whatever and you buy them. How many people? If the Browns only had 15,000 season ticket holders, you now have a game in mid-November, and the Browns are, I don't know, 3-7 or whatever the math would be in November. Let's say they're 3-7, or 3-8. How many people would say, all right, I know it's going to be snowy and it's going to be 27 degrees. Let's not use our 52-inch flat plasma screen with updates on every fantasy thing. Let's go down and cover up and go down and sit around while they call commercials every time there's a change of possession. I mean, how many people would really go to games based on that? If you take 15,000, I mean, in the Indians' case, they probably have 8,000 season ticket holders, which is embarrassing in itself. But if you had 8,000 Browns ticket holders, how many people would show up on a game against San Francisco in November?
Yeah, no, you're right, none.
I asked you a question. Are you going to answer it, or are you going to just sit there?
I said you're right, none.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, that's what the Indians deal with 80 to 81 games a year.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't want to compare it to other cities. Other cities draw whether they win or lose. But you know what? Kansas City didn't. You forget, Kansas City's pretty good right now, but Kansas City, I'm shocked to think that they hadn't made the playoffs since 1985.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard to figure out what the magic bullet would be, or what the magic formula would be, and I don't think anybody knows.
No, I think what it needs to be is you somehow have to have a very, very good season and go somewhere in the playoffs, and then maybe the next year it'll happen. It wouldn't happen in that same year. You can't duplicate what happened in '95 and that 455 streak. That the Indians realized that quick finally and actually did something about it in and took out 5,000 seats, which sounds unreasonable, but in their world, it was a good thought. They have, by the way, excellent ticket values on the internet. But people of my generation who are the baseball fans that they're not trying to get rid of, but they're trying to get the next generation, they give up those great ticket values because people like me don't buy them on the internet.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, but I think you're right. I think if they did put 2 or 3 seasons together for once, we haven't seen them put 2 seasons together, back-to-back playoff appearances since 98, 99.
Yeah,
I mean,
and there's nobody you can. They got some nice players, and people underappreciate pitching. We all know pitching's the name of the game, but I don't. Even if Corey Kluber last year, he didn't. He wasn't an odds-on favorite to win the Cy Young and didn't really get into that position till near the end. But let's say Corey Kluber next year. Let's assume he's going to return to full health and he's going to have a Corey Kluber year. When Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale were pitching, an extra 7,000 people would show up based against the game the previous night. Well, you don't get that with Corey Kluber. You don't get an extra 10,000 people showing up. You may get an extra 10,000 for Dollar Dog Night or fireworks, but Corey Kluber pitching is not going to put 10,000 people in the ballpark.
No, and it's interesting because I lived in Boston when Pedro Martinez was Pedro Martinez, and of course that place was sold out every night, but it was extra electric every night that Pedro pitched.
Sure. So. And then, just almost typical is that Kluber had that unbelievable year last year and couldn't duplicate it. Not that would have put an extra, 300,000 people in the seats over the course of the season, but you talk about stringing a couple of seasons together. Well, even individually, they can't string it together. And then, I love Jason Kipnis. I really do. But is he injury prone? B, does he not have enough stamina to make it through a 162 game season? So thank goodness Lonnie Chisenhall came back to being Lonnie Chisenhall in September, because if they were going to base things on what he did in August, he'd be your starting right fielder next year. Now, if he is, that means they couldn't get another deal done. But hopefully, I don't think you should believe in anything you see in spring training or anything you see in September.
Yeah. Well, I kept you a lot longer than I said I was going to keep you. And do we even need to talk about the Cavs? I mean, do they matter until after Christmas?
No, but you said earlier, I think you used the word uncanny about stuff. The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame dinner is tonight, and I'm emceeing it. So, I'm jotting down some notes, and I'm saying, well, here we are. It's 2015. It's not like last year when we had a quarterback controversy. It's not like last year when we had injuries with the Cavs. It's not like last year where they waited till the September to start to make a run for the Indians. I mean, it's David, in all deference to the late Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again, and it's same old, same old.
Yeah, it really is. I hadn't thought about it until you said it like that. That's just the kind of perspective that you bring to the game, man.
Well, and as far as the Cavs' injuries are concerned, we just got them 6 months earlier. I mean, who doesn't believe that they would have won last year with a full cast of characters?
Well, and people try and make it controversial when somebody says that it would have been a different series with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Of course it would have been. Of course.
It would have had the same ending. It would have been 5 games. The difference is the Cavs would have won it.
Yeah, absolutely, because they had the best player by far. Well, thanks so much for jumping on, man. It's always great to catch up. I love having your perspective on the podcast. Anytime,
my pleasure.
All right, thanks so much for listening, everybody.
Oh, wait, do I get to say that thing at the end or not?
I stopped saying that a long time ago. You want me to bring it back just for you?
Let me just say, of all the podcasts I've ever done, this was the most recent.
And if you're going to wait for any year, make sure you're waiting for next year. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.
Waiting for next year.